Good evening and welcome everybody here and at home. It is with great pleasure and privilege that I sit before you on this beautiful Tuesday, June 12th. The time is 6:30 and I call this meeting to order. We'll start with our invocation by Pastor Domingo Vela with Templo de Liberación, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Mr. Crisp, if you would.
Father, we give you glory and honor. We thank you for this day that you have given us. Father, we ask you for your wisdom, for your understanding, Father, that you will guide this meeting. I pray for the Mayor, for the Council, that you'll be with them, Father, that they will direct every issue that is tonight, Father. I thank you in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor. Thank you, Mr. Crisp. Agenda item number 2, citizen comments and public announcements, and it looks like we do not have any citizen comments today. Mr. Molina, do you have any announcements?
No announcements.
Okay, Mr. Crisp?
Not at this time.
Mr. Burke?
Yes, I just wanted to remind the public of the celebration of Juneteenth on Saturday, June 23rd, from 5 to 8 p.m. at Held Park. Black Awareness Committee sponsoring it, Black History, food, entertainment, and other things for the public to enjoy.
Thank you, Mr. Burke. Ms. Carrasco?
None at this time.
Nothing today.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Agenda item number 3. Here's status report from City Manager concerning 1, review of drought contingency plan, voluntary water restrictions, 2, modification of staffing to support operational changes by realignment of positions and/or staffing, initiation of a planned detailed review of all positions, reassigning and realigning employees as necessary, and best utilizing employee knowledge, skills, and abilities in service for the City of Alice, and 3, other relevant items. Mr. Esparza.
Thank you, Mayor. On this item, what I wanted to go through first is the number 2, the modification of staffing. And it's simple. It's for a couple of things. First, I will be reviewing the organizational chart. I know that that's something that the council and mayor want to be looked at. It was last looked at in 2016. Should be reviewed every couple of years for the things that I want to look at it for. And so we need to make sure it suits our needs as an organization, make sure it's balanced and not overburdened on some employees and not on others. That happens when you change positions and sort throughout the years. We also want to make sure that job descriptions and titles match within departments. One of the things that we found is we may have a title in our function sheet that's part of the organizational chart, and HR may have it one way. Finance may be looking at it a different way, so it needs to be in line and in unison with all departments. Another thing that happens is as we change things throughout the years, some positions may need to get funded kind of appropriately. An example is if we're using our Parks Department to do maintenance, lawn maintenance at the airport or at a facility other than the parks, that cost allocation has to be there. So we need to go ahead and make sure that it's done properly in there. And so these are big tasks that we've been working on. And that leads me to kind of the change that I've done most recently. If you notice that Renee Marshall's sitting here, I've asked her to come back as city clerk, and she agreed. I'll be asking you guys for the approval of her appointment at a later agenda item tonight. But what led me to this change also is the past couple of months, Diana Lopez, who has been the city clerk amongst other non-title positions that she's been taking on, has been doing a lot of work. One of the first things that we've been talking about was this organizational chart and the things that need to happen. And we've had no more than 2 conversations about it because the city clerk's position is burdensome. And it took up a lot of time. And so luckily, Renee agreed to come back on. So I've assigned Diana to an extension of the city manager position, which is risk manager. She does a lot of those duties already. Well, some of the duties are going to be included as HR manager duties, which I mean, she's been wearing a lot of hats. She's very valuable to our organization. She's going to be working still on the healthcare side, our insurance benefits, the risk pool side with TML, working on the organizational chart, making sure it's balanced. We've been doing a lot of work just this past week on things that need to be fixed. So I wanted to let y'all know that I made that change, and we're going to move forward in a very positive way. The second item on here is the drought contingency plan. I'm going to get this, we don't have this copy to them yet, do we? The full plan? I don't think we have this yet to you guys, but I'll make copies and give it to you tonight. This is just to present to you guys our retail drought contingency plan. The summer comes around, there's not a lot of rain, we start talking about drought. This plan was last adopted in 2014. TCEQ requires us to update it and adopt it every 5 years, so we'll be looking at it. And I just want to let you guys know that that's something that we'll be working on. And hopefully by the end of the year, we'll have it ready to go. So when April of 2019 comes around, it'll be adopted, ready to present to TCEQ. And on the other relevant items, I didn't really have anything there.
All right. Thank you very much. Agenda item number 4, consider and act upon approval of city council minutes for May 22nd, 2018, city council meeting. Council, if there are no corrections, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I'll move for approval of the minutes of May 22nd, 2018.
I'll
Thank you.
second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion stands as stated. Minutes are approved. Agenda item number 5, consider and act upon authorizing the interim city manager to enter into Charter Communications Operating LLC by Charter Communications Incorporated, its manager, the Spectrum Enterprise Service Agreement for a primary 100 MBS FIA internet connection for this city of Alice.
Mayor, this is something that Jim and I have been working on as far as increasing our speed. You know, this is the part of our technology improvement plan, and we have been working on getting our email up in the cloud. You guys approved the phone system to be in the cloud. We currently have 25 megabits per second is our speed, and we're trying to increase that. So we have a it's with Spectrum, Charter Communications, and Jim's going to talk a little bit about the speed and how it's going to affect us and where it's coming from and those kind of things.
So we're going to go to 100 megabit speed, and this is in one central location. It's going to be the police department, but we're all going to be hooked up to it. We think that's going to be enough, but we have an option later of increasing it to 200 or whatever we need. We're going to save money we're going to spend a little bit more than we're spending right now, but overall, when we disconnect all the foremost telecom lines and internet lines, we will be saving more money.
And so we're asking for the approval to move forward with the contract, and actually the contract that was on here, it's a draft, and so it'll be, but it's still the same. The price is what it is, $8.99 a month for 100 megabits of speed, and if we do want to go, if we do want to increase that, we can increase it any time. And this one is a 3-year agreement, isn't it?
Yes, yes, it is.
3-year agreement.
Okay, council, any questions? Mr. Molina?
No, no questions.
Mr. Chris?
This is you said 3 years?
3 years.
And then I misunderstood the narrative. So we're only going to 100 base at the $8.99, but if we decide to bump it up to the 200,
It'll be $12.99.
it'll be $12.99.
Right.
Okay. Yeah,
I did too.
I was trying to figure out why this said
Yeah.
$8.99 and then the narrative
Yeah.
said
That's what
$12.99.
I was trying
Yeah,
to.
the narrative was, we were working with two numbers trying to decide. When this was sent, it had both numbers on there, and we decided to start off at the 100 and see how that works. And if we do want to increase, we can still do that, yeah.
So max would be $12.99.
Max would be $12.99.
So the increase is still 600, or Or is that at the max?
Well, the increase on this is, let's see, $189, but the reality is, in the big picture of a technology improvement plan, what we're spending right now is close to $7,000 a month on all these items that we're redoing. And so we'll have savings there. So even though this particular line item is a little bit more than we're spending, we're getting 4 times the speed for, $189, but in essence, it's still saving money for all the technology products that we're doing.
Mr. Crisp, I'm sorry. You have more
No, it's fine,
questions?
it's fine. And then with the 100 meg being stationed at just the APD police department, we'll be able to designate which ones get a little bit more speed than others. I mean, if we're all going to share one single line at 100 meg, what are we getting rid of versus what are we gathering? Does that make sense?
Yes, and what we're getting rid of, I mean, right now, there is a fiber connection that we own between City Hall and the police department, so we're able to share at wire speed or whatever is right there. But the other locations are connected, a couple of them with fiber, but most of them just with T1 lines, which are very slow. We're cutting those all off. We're going to be using G-Tech because we gave them space on our water towers, and so they're going to connect us up at all the remote locations. And so we're going to see how that plays out, if that's sufficient speed for them, or if we need to do something a little bit different with that.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay. Mr. Burke?
No.
Ms. Carrasco?
I think pretty much everything they asked was already answered. The only thing I had seen on there were, where it said about the convenience, I think we talked about that a little bit in reference to what was in here,
That's
on the terms, on the agreement.
I think that's probably going to be on the email server. Convenience.
Well, I think it's on both. It's on both.
On both?
It's addressed on both. There was also the MRCs. They were saying that that's pretty open. Have you seen maybe that those change? Like they increase the monthly recurring charges? Because it's kind of broad in the contract.
The one I saw was at the end of your term, they could increase, but I didn't see increases happening during the term.
Okay, I thought I had read where it was at their, whenever those need to be adjusted. So I just was kind of wondering what that trend is, or if you've seen that.
Because,
In the
no,
past.
I haven't, but I did see that, I think it was on the email on the Rackspace one, saying that at the end of the term,
I think
that
they
could be
have both,
increased.
yeah. On the convenience is on both, but one is 90-day notice, the other one's a 30-day notice. And I had asked if maybe, I don't know if that's addressed, like if we try this out and this isn't for us, it's not working out. But I think that's on the other one, so
Yeah,
I'll
the
wait till
email.
we get to that one. 'Cause
Okay.
Okay. So 3-year term, correct? And when will this occur? How quick is this going to happen?
It could be up to 90 days to get the install, but I think it's going to be closer to 30 to 60.
Okay, so is this budgeted, Mr. Esparza, or for that little increase it is?
Well, no, I mean, since it's a net decrease on that, in that line item, that
Right.
department, it's still, I mean, we're still covered because we're spending less money.
But will that occur simultaneously, where we take away those and then install this? So,
Yeah, well, it depends when it happens.
There might be slight overlap, but it should be very, very close.
okay,
And we'll be within, we'll be able, I can do that within the line items in that department, so we'll be okay.
okay. Any interference with service or anything that you know of?
I'm not predicting any.
Okay,
None.
yeah, we don't need that.
Right.
Okay, very good, counsel. If there's no other questions, I'll entertain a motion at this time.
Mayor, I make a motion to allow authorize the interim city manager to enter into charter communications agreement with Charter Communications Operating LLC, Spectrum Enterprise Services Agreement for primary internet connection for the city of Alice.
Can I get a second?
Second.
I have a question on that. I'm so sorry. So would this cover the way it's stated, Mr. Lemon, 100, or do we have to?
I didn't state it as 100, because
So-
if they need to bump it, I don't want to limit them.
But, so are we removing it? Is that,
As long as he didn't include it in his motion, then it's fine.
okay.
I left it up just in case we needed to bump it up, that we didn't have to bring it back before council for that.
Okay, very good. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign? Okay, motion stands as stated. Thank you. Agenda item number 6. Consider and act upon authorizing the interim city manager to enter into a service order governed by the Rackspace Global Services Agreement and dedicated hosting services, product terms for hosting Office 365 email and Office applications.
Mayor, this is also the third part of the 4 parts that we're trying to do for technology improvement. This is getting rid of our in-house email server, going cloud-based, and also this includes Office 365 for anybody that has an email address. And we have a couple of options. Actually, the way we worked it out is we have the Office 365 Business, which gives everybody email Office 365, and Office 365 Enterprise, which allows us to have a very secure encrypted email. So if you send an email, somebody has to log in, create a password, and read it. And not everybody needs that. We just need a few email addresses that have that capability, mainly human resources and finance, and probably one in administration, when we do need to send some protected information, especially health-related information. And so some of the selling points with it going on to cloud-based in a company like this is their uptime. You know, when we have our in-house server and something happens, or electricity failure or anything like that, we're down. And companies like Rackspace will have like a 99.9% uptime, something in that range. So you really don't ever have the issues you have when you're housing an in-house server. The other thing is what they do offer. It's included in this. Is customer support for any employee calling in, because if they have an email problem or the password's not working, they call them, and it's included. And we free up time from our IT department, who is one person right now. So it'll help. And Jim, I don't know if you have anything else to add to that.
I'm looking forward to it.
Okay. And this one is a 3-year. No, this is month to month.
Month to month.
Yeah.
Council, any questions? Ms. Carrasco?
Yes. On this, it also said that we would have in place, if we were responsible for the security of the information, so how's that gonna work? Do we have something in place right now to protect all personal information? Because in that agreement, says they won't, it would be up to us to protect that and have that set up.
Are you talking about on their global services agreement that they have?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I mean, the information that once we send it to them, then, I mean, the protection is on their end once we send it. Unless it's talking about when.
I think I read it on the one where it said you had to download the service order.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I was just wondering, just making sure that we had something in place, or,
Okay.
We'll have as much in place there as we do here.
no?
For sure.
Okay.
Yeah, and some of on their, the Rackspace, and we're gonna be looking to them at the next agenda for email housing, I mean, for file server, and a lot of some specifics like that really apply to something where they're having to build infrastructure as well. And here, they're not really building any infrastructure because they're just housing our email server, and there's not a big kind of upfront expense to them. So I know, like, we had a conversation about the termination for convenience that you had mentioned. And, you know, if this was a something where they built infrastructure to, like they're going to do with file servers, then we would be held to a different standard as far as cancellation because they have an initial investment. But here, this is a month-to-month, so we're only held to the 30 days of the agreement. But another thing that this company does, I mean, they have a fanatical about service promise. And so, I mean, if you ever have any issues and you really don't like the way they're working and you have serious issues, they let you get out of their contracts. And so from speaking to them several times over the past month, you know, their customers are happy.
Ms. Carrasco, any other questions? No? Mr. Burke?
Yeah, I think Michael touched on my question, that you're confident in the sustainability of the system. Other customers have been pleased with their
Yeah,
operation.
and one of the things also is our phone system. They use this company as well. Out of all the companies they could choose, and it's a big company, they use this company to take care of their cloud-based needs too. Yeah.
Any other questions? No? Mr. Crisp?
Yeah, the Rackspace primary server is going to be located where? Do you know?
I believe in San Antonio.
In San Antonio? Okay, because they have them everywhere, and then they usually use a couple redundant. So are we going to get a couple of redundant backups on this? If that goes down, it usually bounces over to like Phoenix or somewhere like that, correct?
Yes, I don't have the details.
Yeah, that's right. They have two big locations, and from talking to them, they decided when they decided where they were going to house the servers, they were looking at the safest locations that one, you know, didn't have tornadoes, didn't have flooding, didn't have hurricanes and things of that sort, where they needed that information to be secure and stable. And San Antonio was the first place they looked at, and their secondary place, I forget where it was, but maybe it was somewhere like Phoenix, somewhere where, you know, there's not a lot of natural disasters, and there is a lot of redundancy. They also keep everything for us. For backups and for on the file side, when we get to that next time, we'll be talking about how it's going to help our record keeping and retention as well.
And then one more note, and I think you touched on this slightly, but one of the benefits of an online base like this is not only you get office and business level email, but we should be getting basically just business level Office, PowerPoint, Excel, stuff like that for any new computers, any new employees that we have, so we don't have to actually spend the money to go out and actually pay for a license on that. Are we going to be getting that as well?
Yes, yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it carries a lot of weight there. Pays for itself a lot of times. Okay.
And document space up there too. Like I think it's 1 terabyte person for document space. So.
Okay.
Very good.
Very good.
Mr. Molina, any questions?
No questions.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion at this time.
Let's see. Mayor, I make a motion to authorize the city manager to enter into a service order governed by Rackspace Global Services Agreement and dedicated hosting services product terms to hosting Office 365 email and Office applications.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. Okay. Motion stands as stated. Agenda item number 7. Consider and act upon hiring GrantWorks Incorporated for application development and management services for hazard mitigation contracts. If awarded under one or more of the following programs: Hazard Mitigation Grant Program, Pre-Disaster Mitigation Grant Program, Flood Mitigation Assistance Grant Program, other related mitigation funding sources, if not separately procured, and allowing the interim city manager to negotiate and execute all necessary documentation or agreements.
Mayor, if you don't mind opening 8 at the same time, they're very closely related.
Absolutely. Okay.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 8, consider and act upon hiring GrantWorks Incorporated to assist the city in preparing an application for and in the overall management of the city's proposed CDBG disaster recovery projects if funded by the Texas General Land Office, Community Development and Revitalization Program, and allowing the interim city manager to negotiate and execute all necessary documentation or agreements.
Thank you, Mayor. On both these items, in May, we issued, or you guys issued, an RFP to hire a consultant to assist in applying for some of these disaster declaration grant opportunities that we have. We have a grant department, but obviously there's a lot more grants out there than one person can try to go after. So Barbara's kind of in charge of this. Well, she's in charge of this section as well. And so here we also have, is it Robin? Robin Cisco with GrantWorks as well, and they'll be able to answer any questions that you guys have on these 2 agenda items.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This RFP was published in the Echo on May 13th and May 20th and posted on the city's website from May 11th through May 23rd. The deadline for submitting proposals was May 29th. One proposal from GrantWorks was received. Eligible projects are listed on the third and fourth pages. This is page 26 of your packet. Eligible activities under these different funding sources include generators, localized flood risk reduction projects, structural retrofitting of existing buildings, property acquisition and structure demolition, infrastructure retrofit, wildfire mitigation. And then on page 67 in your packet, there's a list of possible projects for the city that were identified in our mitigation action plan that has been submitted to FEMA and is under review by FEMA currently. As well, the our EMC, Patrick Thomas, county's EMC, Lynn Kirchhoff, and I met and developed a longer list of possible projects for the city, and we will be discussing those projects with GrantWorks to see which funding opportunities fit best for those projects, and whether or not both the funding sources under this RFP and the funding sources under the following RFP could be put together for a project or projects. If you have any questions, we'll be happy to address those. Robin can address the fee schedule under this RFP if you have any questions about the fee schedule that GrantWorks is proposing.
Okay, council, Ms. Scott Oscar?
No.
No. Mr. Burke?
No.
Mr. Crisp?
Looks good to me.
Mr. Molina?
I'm fine.
Okay.
Then
Sounds like-
the second RFP, agenda item number 8. This is for the CDBG, or Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery Program that the General Land Office has. This RFP was published in the Echo May 13th and posted on the city's website May 11th through May 23rd. Eligible activities under this funding source include those that support infrastructure, rental housing, and/or non-rental housing. And again, we'd be happy to address any questions you have about this RFP.
Council, any questions? Ms. Scott Oscar? Mr. Burke?
No.
Mr. Crisp? Mr. Molina? Okay. Questions? Good. Can I entertain a motion at this time for agenda item number 7?
For number 7, Mayor, I make a motion to allow the City of Alice to hire GrantWorks Incorporated for application development and management services for hazard mitigation contracts if awarded under one or more of the following programs: hazard mitigation grant programs, pre-disaster mitigation grant program, flood mitigation assistance program, and other related mitigation funding services, if not separately procured, and allowed in the interim city manager to negotiate and execute all necessary documentation or agreements.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion stands as stated.
Thank you.
Thank you. Agenda item number 8. I'll entertain a motion.
Someone else gets to read it.
Somebody else gets to read that. Stumble through it. Anyone?
Mayor, I'd like to move for, approval of hiring GrantWorks to assist the city in preparing an application for and the overall management of the city's proposed CDBG disaster recovery projects, if funded by the Texas General Land Office GLO Community Development and Revitalization Program, and allowing the interim city manager to negotiate and execute all necessary documentation or agreements.
Thank you.
Second.
Very good. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All, sorry. That threw me for a loop. We went to the other side. Very good, council. Motion stands as stated. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you, I look forward to working with y'all.
Yes, ma'am, we look forward to it. Thank you. Agenda item number 9. Consider and act upon authorizing the interim city manager to sign and submit in partnership with Jim Wells County a letter of interest to the TxDOT Office of Aviation requesting grant funding for an airport development plan and airport layout plan update. Authorize the interim city manager to sign grant contracts and all related documents if funds are awarded, and authorize the interim city manager to enter into an interlocal agreement with Jim Wells County if grant funds are awarded.
Mayor, this is also an agenda item for Ms. Reeves. This is this letter of interest is the first step to getting a project listed in the state's capital improvement program for the airport, and Barbara will go over some of the specifics.
The airport layout plan in your packet is from 2002, and to remain eligible for grant funding, we need an updated ALP. In talking with our airport planner, every general aviation airport has an airport planner through the Office of Aviation. And talking with him and talking with the grants coordinator with Garver LLC, who was our consultant on the past 2 capital projects, we've identified the need to update the ALP and also to develop an airport development plan, which is similar to a master plan, but it's not as comprehensive as a master plan. And the critical components of the airport development plan would include looking at relocation of the terminal entrance, fuel farm relocation concerns related to relocating the terminal entrance, impact of drainage on any relocations, terminal area parking, future hangar development areas. Every year, the federal government allocates $150,000 in non-entitlement primary funds to general aviation airports. At the end of this summer, we will have $300,000 available in those types of federal funds. Those federal funds can be banked up to 4 years as you're planning capital projects. So we're asking your authorization to allow us to submit the letter of interest for the ALP update and to develop an airport development plan. The estimated cost is $200,000, might be less. Once TxDOT gets the letter of interest, our airport planner will work with his colleagues and he'll refine the scope of work and also the estimated cost. This would be a 90-10 grant. So the local sponsors, the city and the county, would be responsible for $20,000 if the estimated cost remains at $200,000. This will be on the Commissioners Court agenda Monday.
Okay. Council, I'll entertain questions at this time. Mr. Molina?
No, I have no questions.
Mr. Crisp?
And just for clarification, that's a total of $20,000. That's $10,000 for the city and $10,000 for
Yes,
the
sir.
county, correct?
Yes, sir. Based upon the estimated cost. Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Mr. Burke?
No, Mayor.
Okay. Ms. Carrasco? Okay. I don't have any questions at this time. I'll entertain a motion at this time.
I'd like to move for authorization, approval of authorizing the interim city manager to sign and submit a partnership with Jim Wells County, a letter of interest, LOI, to the TxDOT Office of Aviation, requesting grant funding for an airport developmental plan, an airport layout plan, ALP update, authorizing the interim city manager to sign grant contracts and all related documents if funds are awarded, and authorize the interim city manager to enter into an interlocal agreement with Jim Wells County if grant funds are awarded.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion stands as stated.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Barber.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Barbara.
Agenda item number 10, discuss, consider, and act upon authorizing city staff to submit a grant application to the Coastal Bend Community Foundation for funds to purchase books and accessories to provide participants and families reading together and in the summer reading programs.
This is also under Grants Administration, Barbara Reeves. This is a reoccurring grant that we're going to submit for, and Barbara will give some specifics on it.
This grant would be to purchase books and accessories for the participants in both our Families Reading Together and our summer reading program. And we have a description of each program for you, as well as this summer's reading log that anyone, the summer reading program is open to all ages. So anyone who wants to participate can go check out books and record their reading on that and turn the log in. For a raffle prize, a basket of prizes. The summer reading program has been very successful. Last year, they started the raffle with the prize baskets, and that was very popular. As you can see in your agenda packet, this foundation has several focus areas: art and culture, education, families and children, public good, human services. We've been very fortunate in the past to have received funding for both these library programs, as well as for movies in the park through Parks and Recreation Department. There's no match required, no resolution. Applications are due the 15th. And we'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Ms. Carrasco, any questions? Mr. Burke?
No, just a quick comment. I was reminded this week of the longstanding tradition of this program, very successful program initiated by Alicia Salinas many years ago. And of course, she was very instrumental in building the library,
Yes.
helping it prosper.
Thank you, Mr. Burke. Mr. Chris? Mr. Molina?
No.
All right. I will entertain a motion at this time.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion authorizing city staff to submit a grant application to the Coastal Bend Community Foundation for funds to purchase books and accessories to provide participants and families reading together and the summer reading programs.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion stands as stated. Thank you.
Thank
Council.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Barbara.
Agenda item number 11. Consider and act upon establishment, dissolution, division, and/or reorganization of a golf course committee. And 2, appointments, reappointments, removal, and/or term clarifications of appointments, vacancies, and/or memberships for the Public Recreation Board and Golf Course Committee of the City of Alice Boards, Commissions, and Committees.
Mayor, and on this, if the council doesn't mind, on number 1, we were thinking that we would have some applications for some people who had an interest in the golf course committee. As of 5 o'clock, or as of right before the meeting, we hadn't received any. So we could just look at act on number 2 with y'all's permission, that we have a person that applied for the Public Recreation Board, Mary L. Lane. And I think y'all have the application in front of you guys. So we'd be asking that she get appointed to the Public Recreation Board. There you go. Yeah.
Can you tell us more about the Public Recreation Board?
Where's Josh?
I think that's the one commonly called the
Parks and Rec. Right.
Same thing?
Yeah, but its actual name is the Public
Public
Works.
Recreation Board. Want to give a real quick rundown on the Public Recreation Board?
Yes, ma'am, Mayor. The Public Recreation Board, it's a chartered board by the City of Alice, 5 members. They oversee plans and programs for the city's recreation, from fields to Lake Finley, to the golf course, multi-use complex, and any recreation by the City of Alice.
And they met last night.
We did. We had a meeting last night.
Okay.
We discussed some programs that are working on, one on your agenda and coming up soon about the recreation fields.
Okay.
We discussed other items as well, coming up soon.
And we're lacking a member, I guess, is why
Yes,
we're
ma'am.
still,
Mhm.
okay. Very good.
How long are their terms?
They're 5-year terms staggered.
It's a long time.
It is a long time.
Yes. And it was one of the few commissions established by the charter, so it,
Okay, Mr. Molina, any questions?
I have no questions.
Mr. Crisp?
This is the young lady, or the lady that helps out with the ROTC. You see her out
Yes,
everywhere,
yes, she's
anytime the ROTC
yes,
out there, right?
she's in charge of the ROTC program. As you know, they're very, very active in our cleanups.
Very active.
Always at every veteran service event, a community event, and just helping wherever they can. And she's the person that makes sure it all gets done.
The true definition of boots on the
Yeah,
ground.
volunteerism at its best.
Very good. Now I have a name and a
Yes,
face.
yes.
This lady is outstanding.
Yes.
And we've spoken all the time, and she does always say, if you need my help, just call me. I am so glad. She took the initiative to be a committed citizen. Very good, Mary Lane. Okay, any questions? Mr. Burke?
No, ma'am.
Ms. Carrasco? No? Okay, I'll entertain a motion at this time.
Mayor, I'd like to move for the appointment of Mary Lane to the Public Recreation Board.
Okay,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion stands as stated. Thank you, Mary Lane. Very good. Agenda item 12. Consider and act upon approval of an ordinance of the City of Alice, Texas, amending Chapter 18, Building and Building Regulations of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Alice, Texas, by adding a new Article 9, is that right? To be entitled Cross Connection Control and Backflow Prevention, providing a repeller clause, severability clause, savings clause, effective date, establishing penalties for the violation of these restrictions and provisions for their enforcement, and finding and determining that the meeting at which this ordinance is passed is open to the public as required by law.
Mayor, this is something that Josh and Demetri have been working on for a few months already, maybe at least 3 months, on getting this program together. We're in an effort to comply with federal and state regulations. We need to have an ordinance in place, and they've got one together. We ask that you make one change to what's in the program, but we can go over that in a second. I'll have them talk about the specifics about our program.
Yes, Mayor and Council, it was a partnership, community development and public works utilities, and establishing a program to help us maintain and organize. Community Develop will be helping in that aspect of it, as well as an inspection program. The backflow, what this program establishes is protection for the public water system. It does comply with the EPA and Texas Commission on Environmental Quality. It is a requirement of that. Of course, every city adopts a plumbing ordinance, which we have. And we also abide by the 2012 International Plumbing Code as well, which addresses backflows. But this will centralize a program to help us maintain and continue an organization of listings of properties where there currently is backflows, also monitoring new permits for water. That will help trigger an inspection or a customer service inspection or a CSI that would be needed at those facilities. And again, most importantly, helping us comply with state and federal code.
Okay. Mr. Molina, any questions?
I have no questions.
Mr. Chris? No. Mr. Burke?
No.
No. Ms. Carrasco?
And Council, if you turn to page 240, and we did want to make one, we'd been talking about this because the focus really, the commercial backflow and the dangers of that and the hazards, and that's where a lot of the contamination could occur. But on the residential side, this was real restrictive on as far as irrigation systems. We do require irrigation systems to have a backflow preventer. The two kinds that are allowed are the double check assembly and the pressure type vacuum breaker. And we wanted to change on 240 those two to say that residential, the only requirement would be an initial inspection or after repair. And we did talk to Melanie Edwards, who is a TCEQ executive director for our region, and she said that is in compliance with TCEQ guidelines. And that's exactly how they say it too on the residential side, is it just needs to be inspected upon installation and if there's a repair. So I would just note that if you guys approve this, that you approve with what I stated on there, the change on the residential part, or the addition, I guess, of that language. And now this, once they approve it, we have to send it to TCEQ for approval as well, correct, guys?
That is correct.
Yeah.
How does this affect commercial property owners currently? Is this going to affect them in any way?
It'd be just housekeeping because they're supposed to have an inspection annually on their backflow. So right now we've been sending communications and education and helping them out through that process. A lot have already come and submitted those letters to the City of Alice, which is
Okay.
part of our maintenance.
Okay.
But we're helping them with that and to understand which ones apply.
Okay. Is there a cost to them?
Just to the charge of the inspection, I believe that runs a little over $100. Done by a
Mayor,
certified
Council,
inspector.
I'll add a little to that. Each inspector has their set rate as far as how much he or she is going to charge for that inspection. Some do it as a flat rate, some do it based on the size of the apparatus. It's solely up to them. It is up to the customer to get a hold of a BFP inspector that is, of course, TCQ licensed, which we provide a list. BFP inspectors have come to the Codes Department and have given their information forth. And we do have that on a list for the customers, as well as the TCQ website where they can find someone else of their choosing.
Okay. So there's no grandfather clause or anything like that on
It's
this?
a public health issue, so no.
That's across the board, TCEQ
Correct.
mandate, and we, okay.
But what we will be doing, Mayor, also is communications in Channel 5, PSAs, to help understand that, and also modifications to the website for community development and public works that I'll be using another city's model on a lot of education on this program specifically.
Yeah.
So that'll help.
Okay. How are we going to regulate or monitor, especially right now? How are we?
As those reports are coming in, Josh has a Dee working on a spreadsheet.
Okay.
And she keeps it logged. And once her annual is due for
Okay.
reinspection, a couple of months prior, she'll send a notice of inspection. If there's no response as far as getting an updated report, she'll send a second letter and a third letter,
Okay.
certified, until we ensure that they supply us with an up-to-date report. And
So
the whole
like-
purpose of this ordinance is for that. It only, it helps assist, but as well as manage an effective program.
Right, right. I'm just concerned for business owners. Is there any way that we could tell them before an inspection, or have we done that already? TCEQ is mandating this new.
Yes, ma'am.
So that way they
Through,
have a heads up
Yeah,
on the
through our
expense.
letters, and then when we have the phone calls come in, we
Okay.
just let them know that it's a TCEQ requirement that they have an annual inspection. And if they haven't already done so, to just, as soon as they schedule one, to submit the documentation to us, showing a passing test.
But we are sending them letters.
We are.
Okay. So how are we getting that list of business owners or?
We have a current list that utilities already had established, and we're also comparing that to new. So for instance, we have a new business that took over the old Weatherford location. The building inspector went out there, had a discussion with the owners because it's part of plumbing code.
Right,
He
right.
said, hey, your backflow, so they're working on getting that tested. And
Okay.
new business still get that submitted to us as well. But on existing, on restaurants and even locations that, let's say, used to be a former, like bakery, the one on Tex Boulevard that's now in insurance, that they're not required anymore to have a backflow, we'll work with them too on removing the device
So they have to remove it if they don't?
if they don't require it.
Okay. Okay. I just want to make sure we're warning people and not just
yeah.
throwing an extra expense.
We are, and we're not, correct me if I'm wrong, Josh, we're not giving them a deadline of,
No.
30-day compliance or 60-day compliance.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
But eventually, we kind of have to,
Once this
right?
is
Since it's
established
like a-
going
a
into the
national
new years,
mandate
as it
or-
becomes a pattern, it should be
mandate,
something that we're just
state
keeping
mandate.
track of.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The same goes for the residents also that have irrigation systems.
That's correct, yes, ma'am.
Well, that's the one that, we're requiring them, any irrigation system to get a backflow preventer installed. Here, we're just making sure that we didn't have that, the burden of the yearly
Yeah.
inspection for irrigation systems on residential.
And that'll be to the amendment you were speaking of.
Yeah, and that's what I was asking for you guys to approve the word, and TCEQ finds that perfectly fine, and that's actually what they say
Okay.
on their information too.
Okay.
And so, yeah, we talked to the regional executive director, and as we were going through this, and she was perfectly fine, because, you know, we wanted to make sure whatever we present was gonna get approved as well.
Correct.
Does this affect residents with swimming pools or just the irrigation?
Just irrigation.
Just irrigation, okay.
But they don't get inspected,
The,
residents.
on backflow preventers, if they have a sprinkler system, an irrigation system, when it gets installed, yes. It'll have to get inspected when it gets installed, and they have to pull a permit for that.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah,
So going forward
yeah.
is what we'll have to do with residents, I
Yes, ma'am.
guess.
And it's just a one-time inspection, make sure that it was installed properly and that it works. And, yeah.
Okay.
And
Council?
there's very little risk on the irrigation system. That's why TCEQ allows that,
When-
initial inspection, and then those things really don't go bad on there's the two kinds that they use that were in here, and I forget what they're called. The double check assembly, and then the pressure type. One has the, one spring activated up, and so,
I understand sprinkler system talk. I really do. Okay, very good. Are there any questions, council? Mr. Molina?
No question.
Mr. Chris?
No.
Mr. Burke?
No, ma'am.
Ms. Carrasco? Okay. If there are no questions, I'll entertain a motion at this time.
Mayor, I make a motion to approve the ordinance of the City of Alice, Texas, amending Chapter 18, Building and Building Regulations of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Alice, Texas, by adding a new Article 9 to be entitled Cross Connection Control and Backflow Prevention, providing a repeller clause, severability clause, savings clause, effective date, and establishing penalties for the violation of these restrictions and provisions for their enforcement, and finding and determining that the meeting at which the ordinance is passed, that's it right now, isn't it? Yeah. With the amendment presented by interim city manager. Because this is a public meeting, so I need to say it.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Opposed, same sign.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
on this one, our city attorney needs to read this ordinance, because it does have enforcement on there.
Yes, on June 12, 2018, the City of Alice passed an ordinance at a public meeting, at an open public meeting, amending Chapter 18, Building and Building Regulations, the Code and Ordinances of the City of Alice, Texas, by adding a new Article 9 to be entitled Cross Connection Control and Backflow Prevention, providing a repealer clause, a severability clause, savings clause, effective date, establishing penalties for violation of these restrictions, and provisions for enforcement.
Thank you. Motion stands as stated.
It's passed.
Passed.
Thank you, Mayor.
Motion passed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Josh and Demetrio. Agenda item number 13, consider and act upon an ordinance of the City of Alice to amend the fiscal year 2017-2018 budget to appropriate hotel occupancy tax reserves for permissible uses and authorize expenditure to improve the City of Alice recreational fields.
Mayor, this is a follow-up from the April 24th meeting. We been going back and forth, and in conjunction with our city attorney, we have a legal opinion that this is in compliance with Section 351-101 in utilizing the hot funds for these recreational field improvements. And like for city attorney, if he wants to give a quick rundown on that.
After we had our last meeting, Joshua sat and thought about different ways to spend the money, reread the statute, He spoke to me about it just a few days after we had had the meeting, and we reviewed this particular provision, this exception, this 351.101A6 is the principal exception. There's also a possible exception under 351.101A4. And we visited about it a little bit, then he got proactive and talked to other area communities, talked to the state representative's office, was put in touch with the Office of General Counsel, and that not only did communities surrounding us use these types of funds for these types of things, and in particular, Josh is looking to expend funds to improve our facilities, to do a little infrastructure work so that we can we can bring some anticipated or planned events into our sporting fields. And those could be regional or state tournaments. We need another field to have a state tournament for kickball.
Yes.
And that specifically was brought to Josh's attention by some of the people in charge of that. And so with that we again sat down with administrative staff and some members of council and decided to go ahead and green light it and do it. And he knows the specific amount that he's going to ask for. And in particular regards, Ms. Carrasco has had some concerns about the wording of the statute that she's brought up to us, but the way the statute is written, and as everybody seems to agree that has dealt with the application of this, is that it's general enough to allow us to do these types of things. If the state legislature wants to limit our ability to do that, then they have to be more specific in the limitations of the expenditures of those funds, and they have not. And basically, it's for improvement of facilities for a sporting event. It could be an anticipated sporting event. It could be new construction. It could be renovation. It could be expenditures to be able to have the sporting event, for administration of the sporting event. All those things are pretty much wide open. And so, yes, and I today, Josh and I had spoken about it. Today, Mike had requested a written opinion for council, and so we put that together and got that to you guys. But I think he's on all fours, and I think this is a good idea.
Yeah. Mayor and Council, we've continued to work on this since our April meeting, and many months before that, a lot of communications with teams and leagues on the opportunity, and this is a tremendous opportunity. This particular provision has the most reward for the city of Alice to develop our fields and to utilize these funds for something that can last generationally. We've seen how things have lasted over the last 40 years, so this will help us get back up to speed. And again, like the addition of another field, so we'll be working on this. I do have in a scope of work and some numbers to look at, so council can review. This will help with the allocation.
And so, John, from the last, we won't get
No, we
slapped with you
and-
owe
and
back.
We were pretty in-depth in the review of the issues, and so I don't think there's going to be any problems. It's kind of like with other situations. Somebody wants to sue us on this issue, we'll go to court, because there is no specific prohibition to it, and they're not going to get anywhere with it. And pretty much everybody at the state that we talked to said, everybody at the state that we talked to said, this is an approved expenditure.
Right.
So,
You were just so adamant at the last meeting.
the last meeting, we were going under a different
It was,
exception
because that one
Different
specifically
section?
was
Yes,
about
Ball
ball
fields.
fields.
Okay.
So that's why initially when I had been working on this, I targeted that one item because
The
you know,
events,
the blinders
right?
were on and I saw it as
Awesome.
recreational fields. So
Great
this one
job.
gives us for the events. And now,
Good, Josh.
very good.
Any sporting event,
Absolutely.
singular, it opens the door for us, and it doesn't
great
allow
opportunity.
us all of the
Very proud
additional
of you.
Yeah.
backtracking
Right.
of all of that to get back to 10, to get back to the 5-year spin back or earn back. So, yeah.
And again, this is a
It
wonderful
only makes
utilization of
sense,
funds.
Because
Great move.
it will do beds and heads. I mean,
Absolutely.
it's an obvious, very good, Josh. I'm so proud of your hard work.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Very good.
So what are we looking at here, Josh?
It'll be to the last page, page 3, council of the handout. There's an estimate of cost. And this just includes costs related to the addition of a 4th kickball field, which would help with a state tournament for, I spoke with Little Miss Kickball International, Inc., to Mr. Jimmy Blair and Bambi, and with their feedback and the opportunity that this can have for the city of Alice with over 500 players and numerous coaches and staff, That's huge. So what they need for that is a fourth kickball field. So this will help us start implementing the creation of that fourth field.
And the improvements fall under the fact that Joel Resendez and the leagues have held our sectional divisional tournaments here, that overnight weekend tournaments that have produced those beds and heads also. So
For
that's
instance,
what opens the door for us.
We have
on
one
those.
this weekend. There's one
Yes,
this
there
weekend.
is.
a
All
big-
Stars produces usually about 9 teams or so, give or take, and of that, 8 teams live outside Jumelos County.
That's right.
Mhm.
That is beautiful
This is-
work.
this is
Wow.
Great.
And we have our
And
city
just-
attorneys.
You have my complete and total blessing. This is a very good thing that Josh put together.
Very good. Great work.
I believe it is a good thing, I really do, and I think our city deserves this. I did have a question, and we spoke at length on this, because I don't believe it fits the criteria, but, you know, our city attorney's giving us an opinion, and he had an opinion, he said, from the AG and from,
Well, we didn't get an opinion from the Attorney General's office. We spoke to the state representative, and that he encouraged us to actually probably do more than just this. And then they checked with the Office of General Counsel and said that, yes, this was an approved expenditure. And then it identified communities surrounding Alice.
Yes.
Where money had been
Where
expended
option
for
6 had
these
been
types
used.
of things,
Mhm.
infrastructure and whatnot.
Yeah.
And,
yeah, it was just
Yeah.
kind of, it's, the way it states here doesn't show that it's for construction and it's not for improvement. This is specifically for and this is, I'm not an attorney, of course, so that's why I questioned it. I just had questions, because it says expenses, including promotion expenses directly related to a sporting event in which the majority of participants are tourists who substantially increase economic activity at hotels, motels within the municipality and its vicinity. So, you know, that's the only reason I said, because the way it was reading here is that we're improving on recreational fields. And that's where I was kind of like, well, that's not
Even,
in line with this.
Currently, ma'am, at our tournaments and what we host in the city as is, there's a lot of overnight stay. Those cards that the chamber has at the hotels, you'll see so many of it that has for tournament, all-stars, kickball, softball,
This-
baseball.
yeah.
So, again, in the majority of the participants being
On
from out of the
7,
county.
that criteria fits, but I was just specifically 6, because the other one does require the having 10
Tracking.
per, yeah.
Now, 7 also had restrictions. There was reporting requirements. In 5 years, he had to submit the numbers
10
and
years,
everything.
I think, on some of
With
these
6, there's no such provision.
I feel
there is
confident that
something.
we would hit numbers, though. If we put this money
Correct.
to improvements,
Yeah.
I feel very
I
confident.
don't,
Absolutely, ma'am,
We
because
would.
part of it will pay for the anticipated event of the state tournament for the kickball field.
Right.
Others will help with the more district and regional tournaments for softball and baseball.
right.
So that'll cover those fields.
Because it doesn't necessarily just have to be kickball. Once we
That's
do
correct.
this, it's open to
Yeah, this
softball,
is,
baseball.
yeah,
The
with
fields
this
have to be
estimation of
distinct.
cost, this will get us working on our baseball, softball, and the kickball fields. And even to the extent the soccer field as well.
well, in order
at
to
Anderson.
even work on the kickball fields, we'd have to, and utilize this here, we'd have to build the fourth field. Because then it would allow for the ability for us to host a tournament that would be considered
I was
state
just saying, the
level.
way it reads doesn't read for construction or
But it's-
upgrades or improvement.
but
It's
it
for
doesn't say-
expenses, for
So another
and that's-
municipality had
But I'm not
used it.
going to argue
Well,
that.
expenses are
It's-
construction expense. And construction is an expense. But the thing is, it's a sporting event. A baseball tournament is a sporting event. A baseball game is a sporting event if
Yeah.
it causes overnights. But
And I understand
yeah,
that.
But
I
it
think
says
her-
including promotional expenses,
I'm
but not limited to.
thinking more of the lines, the way this reads is like, let's say we had a current stadium and we were going to sponsor an event like Dallas Cowboys. That is going to create people to come in from other areas, and that's how I'm reading this. But, you know, like I said, I'm not going to, this is a good thing for our city. I'm going to go with the opinion of our city attorney. And if he says that this is fit and the criteria is what, you know, the way it reads is that meets the criteria, I'm going to respect that.
This is exciting.
Joshua, do you,
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Joshua, do you, you may not know, or someone, when is the last time there's been any major investment in our fields? Does anybody?
There has been
Just go
some
back.
work done over the years, new scoreboards, infield improvements back in 2011. Maybe 2015 with some other repairs. They've been slow and steady, but there have been repairs done over time.
Well, it's good that we're going to make it
So
But
this
a
would
large
be a
investment
large
this-
repair.
much needed.
But
much
as
needed, yeah.
large, we haven't done large,
No.
Yeah.
and they are currently working very hard.
Yeah.
Very proud of your team right now, Josh. They're doing awesome. It looks good, just even the little bits that
Yeah.
we're able to do right now. It looks
And
really
the-
good.
The dollar amounts that we're talking about, let's just also go out and make a statement to the general public, if you don't mind, that this is hotel occupancy tax
Correct.
money. This is not coming out of the general fund. This is not tax dollars. This is not the money that gets sent into the appraisal district. This is hotel occupancy tax money that can only be utilized for things like this or events. So for the betterment of our community, to get beds and heads, and this will not affect the bottom line
The budget.
of the actual budget and what comes from the citizens of Alice, Texas. So,
Thank you, Mr. Crisp. And this is put to good use.
yes, it's
You
a
know,
great
this-
use for this money.
This fund this is great, because this is going back to our community, and to bring new people into our town.
Yeah.
Which is the ultimate goal of this money. Very good, council. I will entertain a motion at this time.
Mayor, I make a motion to accept an ordinance for the city of Alice to amend the fiscal year 2017-2018 budget for the appropriation of hotel occupancy tax reserves for permissible use and authorized expenditures to improve the city of Alice recreational fields to the extent of $175,000.
Second.
It needs it in the ordinance.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, the ayes have it. Motion stands as stated.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thank you, Josh. Great job.
Thank you.
I appreciate that.
Very good.
Okay, agenda item number 14, consider and act upon a resolution authorizing approval of offer to purchase tax sale property described as Lot 5, Block 116D, Original Townsite Addition, in addition to the City of Alice, Jim Wells County, Texas, according to the map of plat thereof, recorded in Volume 1, page 64, map records of Jim Wells County, Texas.
Mayor, also, I'm gonna excuse myself from this one only because I'm not directly affected, but I know the parties.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Carrasco. Time is 7:37.
Mayor, this item has been before the council. Give you a little history on it. In 2013, the tax sale occurred on this for delinquent taxes. The entities took it back. And then sometime between 2013 and 17, there was a sale, or there was an offer and it was approved, but the sale didn't go through. The buyer ended up backing out. So once again, it was still for sale by the taxing entities through the Linebarger and firm. And then in 2018, actually in 2017, there was two bidders, and they had a bid off, and one bidder won it by $100. And so that was the bid that in 2018, the school district approved for sale, and now it's before us. This was in May 2018 when they approved it. Now it's before us to approve the sale. It's got to go to each of the entities. And this is for a property located at 103 Monterey Street. The amount of the bid is $21,100. And so our portion of that is $6,143.52. Recommendation is to approve the offer that was presented.
Here's one report of order, Mayor. On the resolution, the date listed is August 6, 2013. We need to insert the appropriate date of the sale. I think the 2013 was the original
Well,
date.
That's the sale of the foreclosure. That's when they foreclosed on it. Yeah.
Trustee pursuant to the trust foreclosure decree. Okay,
Yeah, that's when they took it back.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Forget everything I said.
we took it back, all of us.
Yes, sir.
disregard.
But it's a long time from till then till now. And so I looked back and followed the timeline to make sure that we were right on that. These properties, they get taken back for taxes the entities own, and the appraisal district uses Linebarger to do the paperwork and to sell the property. And it's my understanding that any of these properties that are there, there's daily people go and get a list of what properties are available. So it's not like people didn't know that these properties were there, but just like anything else, it just takes a while sometimes to sell. And that's kind of what happened to this one.
The sheriff's sale was conducted on. The sale was conducted on. Whenever the most recent sale, because she didn't purchase August 6, 2015.
No, but that's the foreclosure date.
Sheriff's sale, that's not what it says. It says the sheriff's sale conducted on August 6, 2013. So when the foreclosure date occurred,
That's it.
no, the delinquent tax foreclosure occurred by decree in 79 Judicial Court on date prior to that. That's not that date. A sheriff's sale conducted on August 6, 2013.
We're getting that thousands. Last time we sold one, we got like
Because this is not, this one's not, this is not the sheriff's sale. This is the sale after the sheriff's sale is the foreclosure sale.
So by delinquent tax foreclosure decree in the 79 Judicial District Court. And so it says, conducted, describe below, pursuant to a delinquent tax foreclosure decree of the 79th Judicial District Court, Jim Wells County, Texas, and whereas a sum of $21,000 had been tendered, but she didn't tender that or conduct the auction on August 6, 2013. So, and again, Mayor, then I would just request that we just insert the appropriate date in the resolution, just approve the resolution for the sale, and we just make certain that
That the dates are appropriate.
that the appropriate date is inserted, and I'll check on that. to see
Okay.
when the sale occurred. So if you approve the resolution, just please include that in your motion.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion at this time. Council?
Mayor, I make a motion that we approve a resolution authorizing the approval of the purchase tax sale property ascribed as Lot 5, Block 116D, original town site addition, in addition to the City of Alice, Jim Wells County, Texas, according to the map or plat thereof, recorded in Volume 1, page 64, map records of Jim Wells County, Texas, with
The appropriate dates?
the appropriate dates being set upon the resolution upon signing. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion stands as stated. Okay. Agenda item number 15. The city council may enter into closed or executive session pursuant to Government Code 551.071. Private consultation with attorney regarding pending or contemplated litigation, a settlement offer, or on a matter in which the duty of the attorney to the governmental body under the Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct of the State Bar of Texas clearly conflicts with Texas Government Code 551, and specifically to receive an update and to secure legal advice and counsel from the attorney related to a pending legal matter. 1, Andy Joslin versus City of Alice, Texas. 2, Government Code 551.074, personnel-related matters to deliberate the appointment of Renee Marshall to the position of city clerk for the City of Alice. The time is 7:43. Council will go into closed session.